Welcome in to the show. We're still here. It's the Real Matrix. We've been doing show after show in regards to the fact that our real life is very similar to the movie in the regard that in the movie, people that were living basically in a computerized dream world that wasn't real, but it sure felt real. It sure seemed real. And certainly we're living in a world that's real, but what we think is going on, what we think is happening, the fact that we have freedom of choice, people we vote on and represent us are doing so in our best interests. Not the case. And so I want to go back to the Wayback Machine. I want to go back over the 2020 election and show clips from a movie from Dinesh D'Souza. It's called 2,000 Mules. I don't think, if you've heard of it, if you've seen it, you're ahead of the game. If you've heard of it, you're still ahead of the game. I'm going to show clips where they show that election, I think it's irrefutable. It shows that it was compromised. There was cheating going on. And there's so much. The movie 2,000 Mules is almost two hours, so I can't play all the clips. But basically what the movie shows, and you can probably see this from other places, the fact that our elections are probably not on the up and up. Where there's a will, there's a way in regards to cheating. And that goes everywhere. I mean, I'm a big magic fan, magicians. And magicians can make, you can cut a woman in half, put her back together. You can make an elephant disappear. You can make a car disappear. If you can do that when you're watching it, can you imagine that there's the possibility that votes can be changed? Or at least the fact that we feel like one person, one vote, someone's going to vote, they're voting their conscience, and that vote will count. And, if you think about the fact how magic works, and how much is on the line in regards to these elections, being in control, being in power, you get to push your agenda. And we've talked about how people in power, they enjoy power, they like power, they want things done their way. So for you to say, do you think, there's no way that someone will try to stretch the rules or cheat? As an old baseball player, the phrase was, if you're not trying unless you're cheating. You're not cheating, you're not trying. In regards to stealing signs or knowing what the pitcher's going to throw, etc. Same thing in regards to elections, and it's happened many times throughout our lives, but we don't really hear about it because they don't really want us to know. And that's both parties. We're going to look at the 2020 election where the Democrats and Joe Biden kind of slid in there, I want to say, unscrupulously. But it happens on both sides, Republican, Democrat. And that's why you didn't hear Republicans scream bloody murder about that election, because, they're probably cheating too at times. And if you're an American listening to this, you should be upset no matter who's cheating. It should not be allowed, because if you allow it to go on, then you're saying it's okay. People aren't elected, they're selected. They're placed in there, and they work out the votes to make sure the person that they want in is selected and becomes our representative. It's not our voice. Our votes don't count. If you're an American, whether it be Republican, Democrat, individual, independent, whatever it may be, you should probably want your vote to count, your voice to count, even though it's only one vote in a cast of millions. But that's what really our country was founded on. We elect our representatives, and our representatives do the things, represent us in a way that is at our best interests. But if you get some criminals in there finding their way in and winning elections because it was fraudulent, we lose our freedoms. So I want to start with a clip from, again, Dinesh D'Souza's movie, 2,000 Mules. We'll be clipping from that all day. And start in regards to, there is a group, Catherine Albright started a group called True the Vote, and they're really looking for election fraud on both sides, Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter, and to me, that's a great group. They just want to make sure that our vote counts, our voice counts. And so they're the ones behind this, because the information they pulled up in regards to the 2020 election, the presidential election between Biden and Trump, they came up with information that once you see this, once you hear this or see this throughout this next hour, I think it's going to be impossible to deny the fact that there was shenanigans going on large enough that changed the election. And anything that becomes that big and is that fraudulent to change the election of the President of the United States, I think is very dangerous for us as citizens. And we need to be aware of it, and we need to fight it. And the only way to fight it is to be aware of it and not let the propaganda from the media influence us. So let's start with the first clip in regards to True the Vote, who they are and what they were doing here.
You set up True the Vote. You set it up not so much, it's not a partisan organization. Is that because you saw shenanigans, problems with voting as coming out of both parties?
Oh, absolutely. Plus, we need parity of parties at the polls.
Well, you told me about this remarkable election in which you had vote harvesting and vote trafficking, but it was on behalf of a Republican candidate.
Exactly. In North Carolina, it was unique in that it actually overturned an election.
There's going to be a new election in the North Carolina congressional district engulfed in a scandal over voting fraud.
This all centers around allegations that an operative for Harris then hired a team of people to harvest absentee ballots, paying them between $2 and $3 a vote.
So you have an activist, the guy's name was McCrae Dowless, and he worked for the Bladen Improvement Association, which was a kind of an African-American get voters to the polls, but apparently they were doing all kinds of vote harvesting, and he learned the strategy. Then he broke with them, and he took his services to Mark Harris, a Republican, well, actually a pastor who was running.
Correct.
And Harris won. He pulled it off.
In 40 years of doing this, we've seen this over and over again. Sometimes the schemes are a little bit different. Sometimes it's people out banging on doors, gathering ballots. Sometimes the ballots are sent here, gathered here, deposited there. But the trafficking itself is always the same basic pattern. There's a nonprofit involved somewhere in the middle. There are people that are either collecting those ballots on the one hand or depositing those ballots on the other and getting paid for it.
So you can see that it's a nonpartisan group. They see illegal activities, both Republican and Democrat. So it's a good organization. They're just trying to do right. They're just trying to make sure that our voice counts. Really good people. As a matter of fact, we're not going to show this here, but both of these people that we're talking to, Catherine Albright and her partner, were attacked politically and through the Justice Department, from the Biden's Justice Department, to talk about information they have, that proprietary information that they found out, and put pressure on them. Basically, it was a way of coercing them into staying away from this subject and stop voicing the issue that this election was, 2020 election was fraudulent. So great people, doing the right things. And so this next clip, they're going to go over how this information is found, how they're able to get this information. And this really affects also what happened at January 6th. So they're going to touch on that, and we'll touch on it after. But next clip.
What, Greg, is geo-tracking?
So the idea is to collect these signals that are emitted from your phone. Your cell phone is delivering information to apps that are collecting that ping. So there are 4 key coordinates: the lat long, the elevation, and the time. And with that data, we can then build a pattern of life around you. So that phone's here right now. Well, where's it going to be at 5 o'clock? And where's it going to be tonight?
Well, here's my cell phone. My cell phone is off. Can I be geo-tracked even with the cell phone being off?
Possibly.
Depending on the apps that
Depending
are
on
on
the
phone.
apps, depending on
That's what
what's happening.
marketing companies do all day, every day.
Now, this is the point. We were at the Apple store and at CVS, and on both occasions, they knew
Right.
where you were evidently.
Absolutely.
And they were telling you about specials, and they were, so people have experience of this.
There's 300,000 or so apps that gather that data, and then they sell it to brokers.
Isn't it also true that this geo-tracking has now become a vital tool for the military, for the intelligence agencies, and for law enforcement?
Indeed, they're using it almost every day. I'll say that there's no question amongst anyone that I know in the community that many, if not all, of the people that were involved in the situation at the Capitol on January 6th were being tracked previous to January 6th because they already knew what their pattern of life was. They already knew who to look at.
Many of the people who stormed the U.S. Capitol on January 6th left digital footprints that law enforcement has used in making arrests.
You're saying they must have known about these people before, because some of those guys were arrested 1 day, 3 days, 5 days after January 6th, and that's not enough time to do the geo-tracking analysis.
The very idea that you could go from the afternoon of January 6th to acquiring the data, tracking the data, unmask who actually owns that phone, which the government is required to do, and then get it to a grand jury, make an arrest in 72 hours?
Impossible.
It's not possible. They had to have been tracking the people in advance. But the fact of the matter is, these techniques are used every single day by law enforcement, the intelligence community, the Department of Defense.
So you heard it. It's impossible in regards to January 6th people. They were being monitored all the time. We've talked about it here. Your freedoms, you're being monitored constantly by your phone, Alexa, Siri, wherever you go. And these maniacs that want to rule the world, they want total control. They want to know everywhere what you're doing, where you're going, everywhere, what your life's all about. And there's going to come a time where if you're doing stuff that they don't approve of, they'll put a stop to it. They want surveillance of all of us. And you can sit and say, well, it's great because if there's bad guys, if there's terrorists, we'll know where they're at, where they're watching, and they'll be able to stop them. But at the same time, if you get bad people in power, bad people in the government, and I'll go as far as to say the last administration, Biden administration, was anti-American criminals. And if you get people in there, or if you're a Trump hater and you think Trump is a tyrant and he's Satan. So anyone, you can look at it either way. Anyone that gets in power here in the United States, if they have the ability to surveil us and stop us from doing things and call us a domestic terrorist because you're religious and you want to express your religious freedom, or you want to say something, you're complaining about something and you want to express your right for free speech to complain about something, and they then designate you a domestic terrorist, then they'll take you to court for that and try to put you away, like they did January 6th members who, and we might do a show on this later about the fact that a number of January 6th people there who went through the building, they were let in. They were shown the door. It's not like everyone there January 6th was fighting to get in. People were let in, and the only people that were killed there were January 6th protesters. No one in military or police. But again, that's the problem that can happen when you are constantly surveilled and you don't have your privacy. And that's what's happening with these apps on your phone. On your phone, you're tracked everywhere. With an Apple, I can only speak for an Apple user. If you lose your phone, you have Find Your Phone. It knows where it's at all the time. Or if you want to find your friends, if you have family and you want to know where your family members are, they have apps where you always know where your family is, in case you need to get a hold of them or in case you want to know where they are. And we signed up for these apps. Those apps are surveilling us all the time. And then those apps can then sell information to whoever. And then everyone's surveilling you and knowing where you are, what you're doing, what your life's about. Very dangerous. Very dangerous. So let's get to the next clip to show you how this surveillance, this geo-tracking works. And they actually validate it by finding some murderers of a small child in Georgia. So let's show that clip, how it works.
Your data.
We chose to look at 2 murders that were ebbing on cold case status.
And in Atlanta, 8-year-old Secoria Turner was killed by rounds of gunfire shot into a car. It happened just outside this Wendy's parking lot.
Bought the data and the team got to work.
You could see visually that there were only a handful of unique devices that could possibly have pulled the trigger. So this is the area, and this is where the Wendy's was.
And are you saying that each green dot is the same guy, but moving through time?
Each color is one person. The shooting actually occurred right here in this parking lot. Sort of inside of this circle are really the only potentially legitimate shooters. Each of these devices has a unique device ID. And we turned the bulk of this information over to the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Now, I read, they've arrested 2 suspects.
They have.
2 suspected gang members will appear in court this morning on charges that include the shooting death of 8-year-old Secoria Turner.
And isn't it true that this tracking these movements, this parallels exactly the work you're doing with the mules?
Exactly.
It's one thing to have the scientific evidence, which is persuasive on its own merits, but do you have video evidence?
We do.
How much of it do you have?
4 million minutes of surveillance video around the country.
Official surveillance video of these mail-in drop boxes.
Yes.
Now, I'm not going to show the 4 million minutes, but that number should surprise you. They have video of these drop boxes of people coming in with loads of ballots at all hours of the night, some during the day, very brazenly, but more often than not, people coming in at late hours, doing it after midnight, after 1, 2 in the morning. And we're going to get to, I think, really quickly, the criteria of how they found these people. It's amazing, but the fact that they have the video evidence in combination with the digital tracking of your phone, and then I think in this next clip it's going to show that how they would geofence a Dropbox. They would also geofence like a nonprofit organization where they might be able to get these ballots. and you had to go to a certain amount of them. And I think they say in the clip, it doesn't make sense to go to more than 1 or 2 drop boxes. Why would you go to more than that? They set up a crazy criteria. You had to go to 10 drop boxes. Who would even go to 3 or 4 and then drive all over the place to these different drop boxes? Why? Who in their right mind would do this unless they're doing something underhanded? They're doing something illegal. They're trying to skirt the system. And the evidence is outrageous. So, yeah, let's play that next clip. Hopefully they're going to talk about all that.
So what was the criterion that you set?
Final decision was they had to have been to 10 or more drop boxes, meaning unique visits inside of a space, and 5 or more visits to one or more of these organizations.
Those were the outliers. It was such an aberrant pattern.
So what you're saying, I mean, it seems to me there's no reason for someone to go to even 2 drop boxes, but you're saying that maybe there's a conceivable reason someone did that. Let's identify a large number of drop boxes and multiple trips, and that way we're going to catch not all the offenders, right, but the worst offenders.
The way we would describe it is we want to absolutely ensure that we don't have false positives, meaning including people that should not have been included. We're not in any way saying that this is all there is. We're just saying that based on our criteria that we identified in Atlanta, 242 people that went to an average of 24 drop boxes in 8 organizations during a 2-week period.
I'm writing notes on this. It's still shocking. You can go back and read it again. So their criteria, again, is you had to go to 10 different drop boxes. You got 1 vote. What are you going there and you go, there's a line there. I think I'm going to drive 10 or 15 miles, go to one where I don't have to wait. Is that a possibility? And then they're going to nonprofit organizations, 5 of them. I mean, if you're going to get illegal ballots, probably just 1 organization that's going to offer you illegal ballots to be able to put into 1 drop box. But you had to go to 10 drop boxes and 5 organizations. How does that make any sense? How does that make any sense? Yet, the digital footprint shows that they went to those and they had 242 people do that. This is not just a onesie-twosie thing. This is that, and that's for that process. I think we're going to speak later about the fact that what if you reduce it? What if you only go to 5 drop boxes? Because again, there's no reason to go to more than 1 or 2. You might go to 1, you might get lost, whatever it may be. You might go to 2. Listen, if my mom's driving, maybe she got lost. She's going to couple 2, 3, but she's not going to 5. She's the hell not going to 10. No chance. And 242 people did this. Outrageous. So I don't know how anyone looks at that information and can say legitimately that everything's on the up and up. And when you say 242 people, and that's just in that one little area of near Atlanta. We're not even talking about anything else across the United States. We will, but just in that little area. So let's go on and talk about these mules. And when they talk about mules, they're mentioning mules because when you're a drug trafficker, you're called a mule. Anything you're trafficking, you can be called a mule. So they're trafficking illegal ballots. So they're calling them mules. So let's talk about the mules in a little more detail right here.
So you have the collectors on the one hand, you have the stash houses, which are the nonprofits, and then you have the mules that are doing the drops.
What do we know about them? Who are they?
Well, first let me say, this is not grandma out walking her dog. Bad backgrounds, bad reputations. We've had, encounters with several that are, not terribly positive.
Violent guys.
Can be. They are interested in one thing, that's money.
Do we know, by the way, how much they get paid?
According to the people that have shared information with us, It's generally $10 a ballot. In the Georgia runoff, that number was higher.
2020, of course, was the year of the Antifa riots, the BLM riots, and it was all going on in the months and weeks leading up to the election.
Right.
And so in the data, you have geo-tracking data of the drop boxes, but you also have data on the rioters.
There were several different violent BLM Antifa riots in Atlanta. In one of them, we had 36 of our mules participate in these violent riots. There's an organization that tracks the device IDs across all violent protests around the world. We took a look at our 242 mules in Atlanta, and sure enough, dozens and dozens and dozens of our mules show up on the ACLID databases. So again, this is not grandma out walking her dog. These are, violent criminals sometimes.
There's not just a criminal element, but there is an ideological element, and that there's an overlap between people. I mean, you're not going to go to an Antifa riot and find it overpopulated with patriots or Christians or Republicans. These are people on generally the far left, and turns out that these are people who also help to make up the mule population.
I think that's also borne out in our target organizations themselves. They're not like Republican organizations.
These are left-wing Democratic organizations, yeah. Let's zoom in here. So the mule is the delivery man.
The mule is the delivery
woman. And what you're saying is they have a starting point or multiple starting points, and then they have the end point. And the end point is the drop box.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
But you're saying that they get the ballots from somewhere, and then they go deposit them in multiple drop boxes.
One of the questions that will come up in the work that we've done is, well, how do you know that this wasn't just somebody that's got a big family and they just deposited a bunch of ballots once? Or how do you know that this person didn't just work at a location that is near a drop box, and so they're constantly going by a drop box? And the elements that are additive here, the going to the nonprofits, the ability to identify the pattern of approach to a drop box, and that it is going not past a drop box and on, but directly to a drop box and back to another point and then to another drop box. All of these things.
I mean, isn't the timing significant? If some guy's going to a drop box at 2 a.m. in the morning, presumably he's not like out for a walk.
Right.
So we're going to show you a visual, a pattern of life that someone can see and look at rather than just a whole spreadsheet of numbers, being able to look at it in this manner. What you see here on the screen is a single person on a single day in Atlanta, Georgia. They went to 28 drop boxes in 5 organizations in one day.
What are the orange dots?
Those are drop boxes.
And what is the blue tracks?
That is a smoothed out pattern of life so that we could take the sort of the movement of the individual cell phone signals, marry them together into something that's visual so that you can see movement on the individual. To get to some of these drop boxes, you had to be intentional. You had to get off the highway, you had to go on surface streets, you had to turn in somewhere in order to get to those drop boxes.
And the circles, I take it, reflect the nonprofit centers. Are that the places where the ballots originate?
The stash houses, where the ballots are collected and handed to the mules to take to the drop boxes.
Now let's move over to Arizona. How many mules in Arizona?
A little over 200.
A little over 200.
In Phoenix alone.
The reason I think this is all very significant is because these were very close states, right? What was the margin in Georgia?
10 or 11,000, I think, in the end.
In the end.
And Arizona also extremely close.
Yeah, very close.
Then you moved on to
Wisconsin, but our initial look was in Milwaukee. Gross numbers were a little down, but the average number of visits to the drop boxes was up. So instead of having only 24 unique visits, I think we averaged 28.
I mean, maybe I've heard people in Milwaukee are really hardworking, and maybe they just went overtime. And then let's go to Michigan.
We have more than 500 mules that we've identified in Michigan. Again, the number of boxes is lower.
Now, where in Michigan?
Detroit mainly, but we have people in Detroit that went to more than 100 drop boxes.
I mean, this is stunning because it's like, I cannot think of a rational kind of innocent reason for someone to do that. It just doesn't exist. So any reasonable person would say, you're onto something big here.
We should take a closer look.
Let's go to Pennsylvania, critical state. I think it was Pennsylvania that really gave Biden the election.
Philadelphia alone, we've identified more than 1,100 mules at rates well beyond anything we'd seen. Closer to 50 drop boxes each.
Each guy going to 50 drop boxes.
Each. 1,100. We saw people driving back and forth to New Jersey across the bridge.
But you're saying the ballots may not even be from Philadelphia or from Pennsylvania.
We're saying somebody should
But you're
investigate.
saying that the origin point appears to be Jersey. Now, running 1,100 mules times 50, we are at 50,000 drop-box visits by the mules alone in Philadelphia or greater Philadelphia area.
So there you have it. A lot of information there. We're going to have to break here pretty soon, but I want to go over that. I mean, you know, the point here is, all right, this is the Democrats doing it in 2020. I could definitely see where Republicans are out there saying, oh, those Democrats, this can happen either way. For you Democrats out there, this can happen either way. You can't be happy with this now because it benefited your side, your team, when you know that it could happen the other way the next election. An American, any American should not be happy with the fact that this is allowed to go on. And the words they said in there were said, listen, you make the decision what's going on here, but it needs to be investigated. Where's the investigation? Why isn't anyone taking this information and investigating it? Again, with this digital footprint that your phone makes, they have these digital phones. They know who owns the phones. They know what home they went back to. They could investigate them, find out who they were working for, what they were paid, who was involved. They could work their way up the chain. That happened in 2020, 5 years ago. I still don't know of one investigation created anywhere that anyone's looking into this. And when I say we're living in the real matrix, that's proof right there. The fact that we can't even get our authorities to look into corruption in a presidential election. And we'll talk about this later on. We'll show more clips later on. But they also pointed out that you talk about potential of so many ballots that in these states, the difference between winning and losing was very, very small. I think Georgia, 10,000 votes. And you're talking about hundreds of mules going to numerous drop boxes. In Philadelphia, 1,100 mules going to average of 50 drop boxes. I mean, and then in, I forgot if it was, Michigan. People went to 100 drop boxes. I don't know how you look at that and you don't go, something's going on. Even if you don't believe that it would make a difference in the election, and then I think you're mentally ill. But even if you say that, you can't look at this information and say, why wasn't this investigated? Why isn't someone looking into this? From either party. For either party. And my worry is both the Republicans and Democrats know about it, and they're just out to out-cheat each other. Again, our voice doesn't matter. No one's elected. They're selected. And that should worry everyone. That should worry everyone that we are here in the real matrix. We got to take a break. We'll be back.
Want to make your love life sizzle like a Phoenix summer? Summit Male Medical guarantees to help you with ED or premature issues, or we won't charge you. We've helped tens of thousands of patients here in the Valley since 2008. Please compare our most experienced medical staff and low-price treatments to anybody. If you've talked to the rest, it's time to come to the best. Put the sizzle back in your love life. 480-398-1000 or go to summitmalemedical.com. Summit Medical, love for life.